So let me throw something at you right from the start. When you hear Ellen DeGeneres, what pops into your head? Is it the dancing? That bright, infectious smile? Maybe it's the way she made random strangers, like someone's grandma from the audience, feel like the star of the show. Or are you thinking, especially after these last few years, of something a little messier, more tangled up than just the feel-good stuff? Because that's what I want to get into. Not the made-for-TV version, not the brand or the t-shirts with "Be Kind" stamped across the chest, not the towering stack of Emmys somewhere in LA. I'm talking about the real story, the one that doesn't fit on a mug. You have to go way back to understand it. To Metairie, Louisiana, 1958. Picture a suburb thick with magnolia trees and manors, where people kept their ambitions zipped up and played it safe. Ellen Lee DeGeneres had the kind of childhood you'd stick on a holiday card: good house, nice family, all of it looking pretty ordinary. But under all that pleasant surface, things weren't as smooth as they seemed. There were little cracks, invisible ones, the kind that don't make a sound but change everything. Her parents, Betty and Elliot, kicked things off with happiness. Her mom brought warmth and light, humming tunes around the house and making everything feel easier. Her dad was steady, an insurance guy, quietly reliable, who made sure things stayed balanced, at least for a while. It worked, until Ellen hit 13 and her parents split up. Look, divorce isn't rare. Lots of people go through it, and plenty of kids survive. But for Ellen, in that tender, weird age, it didn't just break apart a marriage, it fractured her own sense of herself. She'd already figured out she was funny. Not just, "Oh, you make people chuckle" funny. She had wit in her bones. That brand of comedy became more than entertainment. It was survival. Kids in houses with tension learn quick. Make people laugh before they cry. Break up the awkwardness before it turns into something ugly. Toss out a joke, and nobody has to face whatever's hiding beneath. Ellen built armor from laughter, and she needed it. The aftermath of the divorce was rough. Ellen's mom remarried, and things happened in that new household. Painful stuff Ellen never let spill out fully for years. When she eventually opened up, she didn't dramatize or rage. She let it out with a tired honesty, the kind you feel in your bones after hauling something too heavy for too long. By 17, she was gone, not running off to chase dreams, but because staying just hurt too much. She landed in New Orleans and hustled like so many have, waiting tables in restaurants fogged with fried fish and cigarette smoke, shucking oysters, selling vacuum cleaners door to door. Which is just brutal. If you've had a vacuum pitch at your front door, you know. Painting houses, clerking in law offices where the fluorescent lights buzzed all day. Every gig reminded her this wasn't the life she felt inside. But through it all, whether she was serving gumbo or pushing a vacuum, people noticed. She's funny, but funny in Louisiana is background noise, something people mention and move on. One night, she found herself on a tiny coffeehouse stage. Nothing fancy, no 5-year plan, just Ellen, raw and real, with a gift for spinning pain into punchlines. The crowd laughed, a genuine, warm, gut-level laugh, and for the first time in years, Ellen felt seen. Comedy wasn't just her job, it was how she stayed alive. Every joke chipped away at the scars. Each audience meant, for a few minutes, she belonged. So she chased it. Any stage, bars, clubs, festivals, a tough crowd or a hole in the wall, didn't matter. She drove for hours for a 5-minute spot, sometimes slept in her car, perfected her act in places where nobody fakes a laugh. No acting classes, just the school of real people. They laugh or they don't, period. By her mid-20s, the invisible girl started to turn heads. Back then, the comedy world wasn't friendly, especially for women. Imagine smoky rooms and audiences stacked with skepticism. Dollar bills tucked under doors. Men dominating the microphones while people treated women comics as novelties. Ellen walked right in anyway. In 1982, Showtime named her funniest person in America. Just a contest, sure, but it put her on the map, a spark in the dark. Her style stood out, too, gentle and precise, not mean or shocking. She zoomed in on life's odd details and spun them into light. Never cruel, always honest. She confided in her audience, like she was letting them in on a secret. sharing her lens on the world. Then came a turning point. Johnny Carson's Tonight Show in 1986. For comics, that's the holy grail. For women back then, almost impossible. Ellen knocked it out with her phone call to God routine, a monologue where a flea talks to its maker, silly but packed with warmth. Carson did something he rarely did, summoned her to his couch. That meant something in showbiz, a public blessing, a she matters. From then on, the phone never stopped ringing. Suddenly, everyone who'd ignored her wanted a piece. Managers, producers, big names. By the early 90s, Ellen had her own sitcom, simply titled Ellen. It premiered in 1994, and millions of Americans let her into their living rooms. She'd clawed her way to national fame, a show with her name and viewers coast to coast rooting for her. But under the bright lights and easy laughter, Ellen was holding on to something huge, a truth that had weighed on her for decades. Pressing harder each year, it insisted on being spoken. April 30th, 1997. 44 million Americans tuned in. Ellen Morgan, the character Ellen played, walked up to an airport microphone and announced to the world she was gay. The audience exploded. But it wasn't acting. For everyone watching, it was clear. Ellen wasn't playing a role. She was letting the real story show, finally, in the open. That moment wasn't just about television. It was Ellen stepping away from all the things she'd built to trust the world would catch her. She took a leap no script could soften, and she made history, her way. Ellen DeGeneres didn't just come out as herself. She came out as her sitcom character on national TV. And you really have to sit with how monumental that was, especially considering this happened in 1997, not today. Back then, coming out like that wasn't just risky, it meant facing consequences that most of us can't even imagine. Ellen was willing to carry something heavy, simply because living a lie was heavier still. The reaction? It was everywhere, all at once. Oprah, who appeared in the episode, called it historic. President Clinton publicly praised her. People who'd never seen themselves on TV before suddenly watched a moment that felt like the world cracking open. Gay men and women across America said it was like their lives split into two, before and after. That night, TV actually looked a little bit more like the real world. But along with that flood of gratitude came a withdrawal of support. Advertisers suddenly started backing off. The network got nervous. JCPenney and Chrysler pulled their ads. The ratings, which had soared for the coming out episode, began to drop. By 1998, the show was gone. Officially, the reason was ratings. But the uncomfortable truth, the industry wasn't ready for Ellen. She had changed television, and for about 5 minutes, people applauded. Then, just as quickly, the doors shut again. They had no room for a gay woman leading a primetime comedy. Ellen was thanked for her bravery and then shown the exit sign pretty much immediately. If losing her show was cruel, what happened next was, honestly, even worse. Her romantic relationship ended in front of everyone. Her heartbreak picked apart in tabloids as if it was just content for gossip columns. Her phone, once ringing nonstop since Johnny Carson gave her a national nod, just stopped. 3 years. For 3 years, Hollywood treated her like she was finished. Imagine that. This woman who had slept in her car between stand-up gigs, who carved out her own path brick by brick, found herself at 39, starting from zero again. Not a gentle quiet, but a silence that feels more like exile. The phone doesn't ring. Nobody calls about projects. The name that used to be everywhere doesn't get mentioned anymore. Ellen lived inside that emptiness, not knowing if it'd ever end. So she went back to stand-up. Back to the small rooms, the tiny, honest audiences, the gritty intimacy she grew up with. It's humbling, returning to square one after you've been at the top. But the laughter was still there. Her talent didn't abandon her, even when the industry had. And then came the fish. Not kidding, Pixar called. Ellen landed the role of Dory in Finding Nemo, a little blue tang with memory problems, relentless optimism, and this hilarious conviction that she should just keep swimming, no matter what. Just keep swimming, just keep swimming. If that isn't the universe shouting advice through a cartoon, what is? Finding Nemo blew up. It became one of the most successful animated films ever. Dory became a beloved character everywhere, and suddenly, Ellen, who everyone had written off, was one of the most recognized voices on the planet. Through a talking fish. I mean, it's perfect. That momentum rolled straight into the next chapter. In September 2003, the Ellen DeGeneres show premiered. The format was simple: conversation, comedy, dancing, and an atmosphere so warm it felt like a hug. No snark, no drama, just joy. A kind you only see from someone who knows that laughter is vital, not frivolous. The show found an audience almost instantly. Then it grew. Then it became something bigger than daytime TV had ever seen. 19 seasons, 63 Daytime Emmy Awards. For nearly 20 years, Ellen was more than a host. She was a daily companion for millions of Americans. She became the most trusted face on television. Her recipe? She was funny without being mean. She gave away gifts, surprised struggling families, handed out checks to people whose stories moved her, ordinary people, treated like VIPs. The audience didn't just enjoy her, they believed in her. And when she danced, whether alone or with guests, she did it with this uninhibited joy, as if she'd truly earned her space. It wasn't a gimmick. It was a signal, survival and triumph. Here was a woman who'd been told she was done, now dancing every day, right in front of millions. By the mid-2000s, Ellen wasn't just back. She was something entirely new. The pain, the coming out, the cancellation, the years of silence, all that was now the source of her power, not just scars. She paid a price nobody else was asked to pay, but she paid it anyway. And her audience, who always knows the difference between real and fake, rewarded her with loyalty that lasted nearly 2 decades. Ellen DeGeneres taught everyone watching that being true to yourself is worth whatever it costs. And sometimes, what feels like the end is really just the start of an even greater story. Ellen DeGeneres didn't just come out as Ellen, she did it through her sitcom character, right there on national TV. Think about how wild and brave that was in 1997. Back then, coming out like that wasn't just some bold move, it was dangerous. Most people couldn't even picture the fallout. But Ellen chose honesty over the safety of pretending. She decided that carrying the weight of the truth was easier than living a lie. The response? It was massive. Oprah was in the episode and called it historic. President Clinton gave her a shout-out. Suddenly, people who'd never seen anyone like them on TV got to witness something big, something that actually felt like the world cracked open for a second. Gay folks all over America said it was like their lives split in two, everything before and everything after that night. TV finally felt a little more real, but gratitude didn't last. Advertisers got skittish and backed out. The network started sweating. JCPenney and Chrysler pulled their ads. Ratings, which soared for the coming out episode, tanked afterwards. By 98, the show was gone. Officially, it was about numbers, but honestly, the truth was simple. The industry just wasn't ready for Ellen. She changed TV, got applause for a hot minute, and then the doors slammed shut again. They just couldn't handle a gay woman leading a primetime comedy. She was praised for her courage, and then kicked out almost immediately. Losing her show was cruel, but what came next was even worse. Her relationship ended in front of the whole world. Tabloids tore her heartbreak apart as if it was just entertainment. Her phone, which never stopped ringing after Johnny Carson's Boost, just stopped. 3 years. For 3 years, Hollywood decided she was done. Imagine that. Ellen, who'd slept in her car between stand-up gigs, who built her career from scratch, hit 39 and had to start over. Not just quiet. Silence, the kind that feels more like exile. No one called. No one wanted her. The name that used to be everywhere was suddenly nowhere. She lived inside that emptiness, not knowing if it would ever end. So she went back to stand-up. Smaller stages, tougher crowds, the rough intimacy she started with. Starting over was humbling, especially after knowing what it felt like to be at the top. But her talent stuck around even when everything else didn't. Laughter was still there for her. Then, out of nowhere, Pixar called. The fish moment. She landed the role of Dory in Finding Nemo. A goofy blue tang with memory problems, insane optimism, and the catchphrase, "just keep swimming." That line became advice for life. didn't it? You have to wonder if the universe was speaking through a cartoon fish. Finding Nemo was huge. Dory became everyone's favorite, and out of all the twists, Ellen was suddenly back, one of the most recognizable voices on the planet, and it was because of a fish. Honestly, you couldn't script it better. That energy rolled right into her next gig. In 2003, the Ellen DeGeneres show launched. The show was simple. Conversation, comedy, dancing, this cozy vibe that felt more like a celebration than daytime TV. No nastiness, just joy. The kind of joy you only see in people who know laughter is survival. People found her, and then she grew an audience. Then she blew the roof off daytime TV. 19 seasons, 63 daytime Emmys. For nearly 2 decades, Ellen wasn't just hosting. She was part of people's daily lives. She became the single most trusted face on television. Her formula: be funny, but never mean. Surprise people with gifts. Help families and strangers. Treat ordinary folks like VIPs. Everyone rooted for her, not just because she was entertaining, but because they believed in her. And when she danced, alone or with guests, it wasn't just for laughs, it was a sign. Here was someone who survived, who fought her way through, and now she was celebrating that right in front of millions. By the mid-2000s, Ellen wasn't just back, she was completely reinvented. Everything tough, coming out, going silent, losing it all, became her strength, not just scars. She paid a price, nobody else really had to, but she did it anyway. And her fans, who can spot real from fake in a heartbeat, rewarded her with near unbreakable loyalty. Ellen DeGeneres showed everyone watching that being true to yourself doesn't just matter, it's worth whatever you have to pay. Sometimes when you think your story is over, it's actually the beginning of something bigger than you ever imagined. That fact belongs to history, and it cannot be taken back. She was flawed. She was, by multiple credible accounts, capable of a coldness that contradicted everything her public image promised. She built something extraordinary and allowed a culture to grow inside it that caused real harm. Both of these things are true. They don't cancel each other out. They simply coexist, the way all complicated human legacies do. Imperfect, unresolved, and more honest for it. Because here's what I've come to believe, sitting with this story. The most powerful lives are rarely the cleanest ones. They are the ones where someone kept going anyway. Where someone chose truth over safety. Repeatedly, even when the truth absolutely destroyed them. Where someone got knocked all the way back to the beginning, not once, but twice, and found their way back to a stage. Ellen DeGeneres was a girl from Louisiana who stepped onto a small stage with nothing but a sharp eye and a lifetime of pain she had learned to translate. She was told, in no uncertain terms, that the world did not have a place for her. Her honesty, her identity, her particular way of taking up space. She was canceled, forgotten, and dismissed as finished. And she refused, stubbornly and completely, to agree. That refusal is the legacy. Everything else, the Emmys, the merchandise, the controversy, the retreat, is just the detail around it. And if you have ever been told, in whatever words the world chose to use, that there is no place for you exactly as you are, then you already understand something essential about why this story matters.